This podcast is rated R for restricted. Under 17 requires accompanying parent or adult guardian.
Mission 250.
Welcome to the Mission 250 Filmcast, where we are watching the best movies ever made, according to IMDb, except for during, all the time now, where half the time we watch something else.
Half the time.
This is Oscar season, so we're we're kind of going around and picking which movies interest us from the Oscar nominations this year. And this movie is kind of the second front runner for Best Foreign Picture movie. Quo Vadis, Aida is the name of it. It's the official selection from Bosnia. The director is Jasmila Zbanic. The synopsis of this movie is Aida is a translator for the UN in a small town of Srebrenica. I'm gonna really fudge a lot of names this episode.
This one.
Apologies in advance. When the Serbian army takes over the town, her family is among those citizens looking for shelter in the UN camp. And this week, it's TC's turn.
Hey! I watched it today.
What'd you think? How'd your day go?
There's a lot of strong faces in this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know what that means? Lots of edges. Not a lot of smooth curves. Just a lot of... No, this is a...
People have had rough lives, TC.
Yeah, this is a rough one. This is a tense and shitty one to watch when you're trying to have a good day. If you started your day positive, you're going to end up with your jaw dropped a couple times here.
Agreed.
It's a pretty tense movie. It's a, shitty, realistic story of people being, I got nothing. I
misheard that. Shitty realistic. No, I understand.
Yeah, it's shitty and realistic.
Yeah.
It's just a fucking, no one wants to know this story, Yep. I don't really know what to say. Like some of the stories, you're like, oh, this is cool. It's like a war movie. You get to learn a little bit. Like you learn about this and you're like, I don't want to know about this. This is awful.
It is. It's fucking terrible.
It's just terrible. I mean, it's like, puts humans in a not worth much, I think. Serbia, Sabranica, whatever the hell it is. I don't want to go there. if any of these people still exist or somewhat have the ability to be this morally inept, I have no ambition to go.
Yeah,
I have to say, this is a tough one to watch for sure. It's a really it leaves you kind of speechless a lot throughout it. You don't really know what to think. Other than to maybe type into Google, like, did this happen?
Yeah.
Right.
Because if this didn't, why would I ever watch this movie?
Yeah, right. Like, if this didn't happen, I don't want to watch this anymore.
Yeah.
And if it did happen, fuck me.
Yeah.
Obviously, I guess I would chalk it up to like watching something like, that's about the Holocaust, right? I mean, it's in the sense of like, it's one group of people treating another group of people like no one cares. No one cares.
Yeah.
No one cares about you. No one's going to do anything for you. You're fucking here on your own. Go fuck yourself. And, there's good-hearted people in here, but they have no power. And there's poor victims that don't have any power. And then there's, army that don't have any power. And it's like, it's just like this group of powerless people that can't do anything, and it's just fucking miserable. I don't know what to make of it.
They're being shuffled around from place to place, and they have no options whatsoever. And they just can't do anything to help themselves, and nobody will help them.
And no one will help them.
There was not like a moment where you thought that you would have done something differently, I assume, right?
No.
Yeah.
Right.
Because what could you have done?
Right, exactly. I feel like there was this movie just makes you feel so helpless, which is what they're making it out to be, because that's what the people are feeling like. Like even the hard work of the interpreter and just like trying her best to figure something out. Like there's nothing to figure out, right? Like the kid was right, the son was right, and they're gonna kill him. Like that's just it. Like the writing's so on the wall that I don't know. I kind of agreed with him. I would have been afraid of dying for sure, but everything was so
played and like you didn't know what these people were gonna do. You know, like even towards the end when they had them in they separated them in the trucks. I'm like, well, that's not good. But like, I didn't know the story at all. You know, so I was just like tense. I was like, maybe nothing happens. Maybe this is just a story about a scary
maybe they get away.
Maybe they like just go in a truck and somewhere else. Like no,
right.
No.
There's a scene at the beginning of the film where the family's like all staring at each other in their house, and then it like seems to clip into the movie itself. So it made me think that maybe we're going to come back to that, meaning that they all survived, but something very bad happened that they can't deal with. But they were all there in their house. I was half hoping that we were going to come back to that scene in their apartment with the whole family there because of the way the movie was set up. I was like, but nope.
Nope. I mean, the only fun part I had was when the first shot turned to the crowd. I was like, "Hey, it's Bonnaroo." And I was like,
that's what I thought too. I was like, "What? Who's playing up? Is it the Super Jam? There's a lot of people here?"
It's like that was like, and then I was like, "All right, get serious. Watch this movie." You know what I mean? Like that's about the only fun I had. The rest of it was just like, I mean, really, right when it starts, it just sets you up to be ready for a tense movie.
Yeah.
Like it just launches you into this predicament. So it does a very good job at like telling a story and making you feel tense and, you know, helpless and like all the things no one ever wants to feel and all the things certainly no one wants to escape and do when they watch a movie, which is, I guess, why they had to make it. But I could have done without it midday on a, you know, oh, fuck it.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard. It sucks. It sucks for us, or it sucks. We suck. Like people like us suck, and history teachers. You know, we didn't. John, I assume you also didn't know about this massacre.
No. I just. I mean, yeah. And this is just a sliver of things.
This is a spoilers, I guess. I mean, we've been talking pretty vaguely, but I think we should say spoilers. If you haven't seen it and you enjoy pretty historically accurate stories about war crimes.
I prefer the word appreciate.
I just like how like, even I have to like speak slowly when I think. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want. Denny's like, if you do this and
you're right. We already sort of gave it away. Normally, I catch that too, and it's just this one. I don't know. It's hard to say. Oh, I don't want to be responsible for telling somebody to go watch this.
Yeah,
and experiencing it with. I don't know. So it's hard to be like. To say, oh, you really should go watch this.
Because it's not horror movie fun in the tense way. It's like it's like scary for your characters' lives in a realistic sort of way.
Right.
And you're gonna feel sad.
Yep. And you're gonna feel tense for about 2 hours.
And sad.
I mean,
and helpless.
Yep.
And and just emotional. I mean, it's good in the sense like if you want to get taken into a movie where you're not going to think about anything else.
Yeah.
Then sure. Yeah.
But if you want to think about, like, if the things you want to block out of your head is worse than what's going on in this movie, then you got some serious issues.
Yeah. Right.
It's not escapism for a good.
No, this is a learning experience. And it's just it's something if you compare your life to it, everything's great. Fucking pandemic's great. Fucking, you know what I mean? Like it's fucking great.
Yeah.
Because if I can't imagine being stuck in a situation where like someone's throwing bread out and you're like, hey, fucking me, please, me.
Dude, I was so tense the entire time. I was like, they probably poisoned the bread. Like I wouldn't take it. That's what I'm thinking.
You wouldn't trust those fuckers.
Yeah.
And then to see that asshole at the end, like watching
care.
his kids dance, I was like,
yeah, you're starving.
You fucking kidding me?
I don't think they made it as clear. The town itself, before they even got there, was under siege for years, and so food was really scarce. I mean, they actually didn't show. It was pretty light on how actually miserable the people were and how thin and emaciated they probably were.
And it was very thin on the actual atrocities that happened while this exodus of people from this town. Like it skipped out on even more 100,000 times more horrible than what's in this movie. Right.
So that's what's so upsetting about this film is it's only a very small sliver of how bad it was.
See, John, I kind of thought that too because like even before the movie was over, I watched this with Naomi and she was looking up what actually happened, and after I watched it, I also did the same thing. And I was like, oh my God, they didn't even touch on how bad this shit was.
Right.
But listening to the director and writer talk about why she did it this way, it's because how could you make a movie that without just being torture porn and rated, banned in every country to actually show what happens?
Right. Well, I don't necessarily mean it as a criticism of the film. I just mean it's just another horrifying thing that it's showing a sliver. I mean, it's a separate issue. Like what they decided to do was really engaging and helped people outside of the whole situation get get a little bit of a feeling of what it was like from an outsider's perspective. That's what it was conveying was, her being the translator. She's still part of that country now because she's married into it and so forth, but it's still something of an outsider's perspective, and it's only this slice of what she's experiencing, which is about all I was, that was enough.
I mean, it felt like Mumbai Diaries, but like at least there was hope in that.
Yeah, that one.
You know what I mean? Like the good characters, like you rooted for them because they might get out of this. But
which one was it? Oh, Hotel Mumbai. Hotel Mumbai.
Yeah, sorry, Mumbai. Yeah, not Mumbai Diaries. Hotel Mumbai. Yeah, this is like Hotel Mumbai. I'll give you another point.
But this one, the focus, and again, the title reflects that. Where are you going, Aida? It's all about her trying to salvage the situation, to save her family.
This movie all she does is run around and ask people for help in this movie. Like that's
no one helps.
And no one helps. Yeah,
it's
like
awful.
so frustrating. And that scene where like they finally get separated and pulled away, and she starts screaming, like that was. She was fucking amazing in this movie. That was incredible acting.
She was. Even the laughter when she's smoking a joint.
Yeah.
And watching those two make out, like she just had a range of emotions that were very like subtle, and she was definitely, I can see why this is up for,
for sure. I'm surprised she didn't get nominated. Well, I guess they really don't nominate foreign actors.
They don't nominate good stuff.
International stuff.
She was better than Frances McDormand, dude, and that's not knocking Frances McDormand.
No, I agree. Well, there's a lot more going on, but still, you're totally right. I mean, yeah, she was. Everybody was pretty good. I think I didn't really, and I don't know if these are all professional actors or what, but they certainly seem to be that way. I don't know if
they're professional actors. They're part of smaller countries with smaller movie industries, but they're all actors. So they're not nobodies.
No, they all were good. I mean, it was all very well done and hard to do. A tough thing to pull off, like to. I don't know.
Well, I mean, even at the end, it's like you don't know whether to be happy she survived or mad that the other one survived.
What? Yeah, that was frustrating. Seeing that dude with the blonde tips,
fucking pissed, but not. And you start to compare it to like your own life, where like people get away with shit and there's nothing you can do, and you have to like grin and bear it, and like. And it's like whatever you're comparing it to is nothing in comparison to what's in the movie. But like they're tugging at all these fucking things in the end of the film. And you're almost, and like, I swear when it went black, I was like, motherfucker. Like, that's it. That's all we get. Like, there's no payoff. There's no like revenge like we're used to. There's no like, it's just like you feel not great.
What is her expression in that last shot?
I don't know.
She's kind of smiling, right?
She's smirking, but not.
She's watching the kids, so maybe she's like coming.
I thought she was watching the survivors. I couldn't tell which way she was looking.
I thought she was pointing towards the kids, but I don't know. Positive.
Yeah, I'm not positive because they don't give it obvious. They don't make it obvious. They just have her next to a wall.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. I assumed she was sort of just still. I thought it was trying to be. And maybe I just wanted it to be slightly uplifting at the end where she's just at least enjoying being, the kids and seeing them be
Or maybe
silly
that's a flat facial expression she puts on as she gets lost again and all the horrible shit she went through. As she just dwells on
I was taken back to that shot where they were all holding hands, like, and they go through all these people.
Can you explain? I wanted to bring that up because that scene was the most confusing, and that was the only scene that I didn't like in the entire movie. Like that scene brought me out with a slow motion circle dancing where they kind of paused in front of the camera. Like, what was that?
I don't know if it was just trying to be artistic or what. Like, if she's just remembering the faces, maybe all of those are faces of people. I thought maybe it's people that have died and she's just like seeing them individually. I had no idea.
I think it might be because then the kids have the same shot at the end.
Yeah.
Right, where the kids are doing their peekaboo thing.
Yeah.
And it's like one died and one lived. But you're right, John. It could just be like trying to be artistic. Yeah. I don't know.
I agree, though. It did take me out of it, too. It's a bit of a relief in a way because I was like, what's going on here? I don't get this.
and you were able to switch your gears in your head.
Yeah. But other than that, I didn't. Yeah,
I had the weirdest sensation noticing. So I was tense the entire movie until the sons and the husband get killed in the whatever room that was.
The church, I think, or the film. It was a theater. It was a
theater. Okay,
movie theater. Is they're like, the real film is going to be starting soon.
Yeah, I felt noticeable. Like I noticed my relief when that scene happened. Because I knew like the film was building towards something, and I was like, all right, it builds towards this.
That was it.
I am no longer tense. And I was like, that's a weird reaction to what just happened in this movie.
Right. Well, I guess I understand that though too, because it's like it's built at least it's been resolved. It's horrible, the resolution was, but it's like now it's done.
It's behind them all.
This is like and I think the movie sort of conveys this well without directly telling you. This is what's going to happen no matter what anybody does.
Yeah.
And you feel that. You feel that, though. You feel this inevitability of that. So when it happens, it's not necessarily a surprise. It's just like, oh, yeah, there it was. Now it's over.
Yeah.
And now there's a new generation. Things are moving forward.
Yeah.
I was surprised it kept going for as long as it did afterwards. Like she went to her old apartment and stuff. And I kind of liked it just because it was, it was about her. So like it was like her life went on and it had to show that it just didn't end.
Well, they wanted to show the bones, right?
Oh my God, that scene!
Yeah, that was something else.
I almost couldn't take that scene. Like that was incredible.
I know. So when she grabs the hand, I was like, "Come on, damn it! Like, damn it!
This is working.
Damn it!
This is working so well."
Yeah, right. Like this is definitely working.
Yeah.
Fuck you, by the way.
What a horrible thing, too. Like I had never thought about that kind of thing where this massacre apparently stayed under wraps because Bosnia has like real like news issues. Like it's a really closed circuit country. So like people didn't even know there was a massacre until 5 years afterwards. And it wasn't recognized until 9 years afterwards by the country itself and Serbia. So like everyone was just bones.
Fucking hell.
Pretty fucking horrible shit.
Yeah.
So can I go a little bit, John? I got a few things I wanted to say.
Go on. Say your things.
This movie reminded me a lot of other movies. It reminded me of Incendies with there's some like beginning establishing shots that reminded me of like that kind of Denis Villeneuve. This is a large city type of thing, like especially that one shot where it shows you the bomb going off in the beginning with like the entire city in the shot.
Right.
It reminded me of The Act of Killing. Have you guys seen that movie?
A long time ago.
I don't think so.
So that movie is the end of this one where it shows like all the people, like the people who won survive and are having normal lives and they're fine. The Act of Killing is a documentary about there was a massacre in Indonesia and all the people who were doing the massacring, the ethnic cleansing, won this war and they're like the heroes now. And the documentary is on these people who are still alive that killed thousands of people with their bare hands. So that's what it reminded me of in that
documentary. They're like they come in as journalists as if they appreciate what they've done.
They trick them.
They do even things like get them to reenact the kill. It's horrifying.
Yeah.
Like they'll like have them like, come on, show me how you did it. Yeah. Show me what you did, kind of thing. And then the people will kind of happily like, yeah, I was here and this guy was over here and it was, oh man, that's a terrifying film.
Yeah. And it reminded me of both Hotel Rwanda and Hotel Mumbai. Mm-hmm. There's the tenseness and just the terror, like they're soldiers, but they're kind of just terrorists. Like they're terrorizing this group of people. So it was pretty damn similar. And there are things in all those movies, like the cinematography in Incendies, probably better. The real story aspects of The Act of Killing. The thing that surprised me about this one is you don't see any violence. There's like zero violence on screen, which is pretty weird. Like I was looking at the parent guide or whatever, where it tells you what's bad in the movie. And in some countries, this movie is rated 12 plus. This movie
because there's nothing on scene. It's all psychological.
Yeah,
right. But you shouldn't be showing this to kids.
No. This is a hard R as far as I'm concerned. But there's there's no.
But it doesn't
violence.
fit the content guidelines in a certain way.
I think the difference, the thing that at least when I think about this film and the difference of it is that it really centers so much on Aida and her trying to save her children, like her trying to fight this inevitability. That's what really seems to make, or sort of like when I think about it and compare it to all these other types of films that we've seen, that's the difference here. Is this one is really more even though it's showing all these other things going on, it seems so intently focused on her and her trying to get out of the situation. And that seems, it's different than some of these other films where there's a larger picture that's given for these other films. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it just seems like the focus is narrow in a good way for this particular film.
Yeah, and they kind of give her, I mean, this movie is pretty accurate. There's not a lot of, there's a lot of stories of people talking about what actually happened, and their, newspapers have written articles on it and stuff like that. This writer-director went around and just collected all of these stories, and this is an amalgamation of all those stories. So it's not necessarily Aida is not a real character, but almost all the individual things that happened to somebody. So it's kind of like a Frankenstein monster of true stories. So I mean, just knowing that's something I definitely looked up towards the beginning of watching it, because once we watched Room, and I realized that I don't want to watch misery movies unless they actually happened and I can learn something about
True.
I mean, what do you learn from this? Humans suck a lot,
Yeah. Right. If you're on top and you're winning something, you don't give a fuck about the other person.
Yeah.
Right. Especially war.
And they don't even go into, part of the confusing thing is, and part of the reason it's so tense is they don't go into the history of why the Serbians would massacre all these people.
Oh, do you know why?
I don't know why.
Because it's gonna take you a long time to get to that point of understanding, because there's so much history. I tried to do a bit of book reading on this, and I will not attempt.
I feel like I don't have 20 years.
Because
I also
will get
tried
it so
too, John.
wrong.
And I was only reading about this Sabranica area, and there's a long history of fighting in that one town.
Right.
And it's just a small portion of the Bosnian War.
So you can't. I can talk a little bit when we get to the book corner and try to say some things, but I will say here out, and again when we get to it, that it's so complex.
Yeah.
That it's not an easy thing to just, the combination of circumstances that allow certain people to be in that position and also get away with it. I mean, there was a lot of circumstances there where the Serbian army, because of the dissolution of Yugoslavia, they had a lot of the military, and so they actually had a whole lot of military power, and so they basically could use it, and they could really throw their weight around without much repercussions. But again, I shouldn't say anything because I just tried to read. I tried to do the Wikipedia searches as well, and I picked up a pretty lengthy book on it and tried to. And again, we decided we're going to watch this on Friday, and
That's true.
I didn't have much time.
Really
Johnny's got a new SLA he's about to send out our way.
No shit.
Yeah, right.
This is just a violation of my contract here.
Right. You're eating into his SLA.
I can't perform under these conditions.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
so we agree.
But anyway.
But it is kind of weird how they don't even give you any of that understanding. This movie is kind of simple. It's like a simple story about one event in this massive war, across many places.
I appreciate it because I think from this movie's perspective, it's kind of not necessarily the point. The point is this is awful. It happened. There's nothing she could do in this moment, in this series of moments to stop it. And I mean, and also just to draw to expose the atrocity and get probably. I mean, the other thing the film does, you certainly then are interested and want to know what really happened and so forth. But I sort of appreciate that the film isn't trying to describe it for one side or the other. Even they're not trying.
Well,
to,
they
not
probably
even
did what you did, John.
Making the attempt.
They couldn't
I don't know.
They couldn't fucking. They're like, there's no way we can do this.
Right. So I don't know what you do is you could just say, well, there's the one book I read just said well, I'll get to it later. Just it's just complex, and it's complexity that goes back for hundreds of years. So
it's not like Jasmila Zbanic. I apologize. This is like her one shot of doing this. She's kind of done a few of these stories where she focuses on Bosnia and the actual atrocities that happened, and then also the life after, because everyone there lived through something, because it affected literally everyone that lived there. Like everyone that lived in this town was affected in a extremely negative way, except for the people that were murdering people, and not just murdering, but terrible things. You read about the other stuff. I don't know if I'm going to keep this in. If you want to keep having a nice day, maybe now's the time to tune out, or should I save that for the end of the podcast, or not even talk about the stuff they left out?
I don't mind hearing what you've got. So I don't know. Do anybody else have other thoughts on just the film? I didn't get a turn on that, but I think you guys have said what I don't think you guys said anything, or you guys have covered all the ground I was going to. So I don't know of.
It's really hard to say anything bad about this movie, except for that it's extremely effective at making you feel like shit and feel bad about the human race.
I think the general and his henchmen were particularly effective at being scary too. Like the all
of them, even like the younger guy who was like, "See you later, alligator." And I was like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I know.
Why is everyone so scary?
It's menacing without seemingly over dramatic or anything like either. It felt realistic, and that was all the more terrifying.
And it was always confusing, right? Like when they brought the dogs out, I was like, why do they have the dogs? Why are they splitting up everybody? Why are they getting buses? Where's everyone going? Yeah, like I didn't understand any of it.
And imagine that's what the people were feeling.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So you're just like, that's why they stood in that fucking theater, just waiting, being like, maybe we're not about to all be killed. Maybe there's something else that's going to happen. I don't know what's going on.
Although I think they kind of knew.
I think most of them knew. The young boys were saying that. They knew that was going to happen. They had no choice. Were they going to run and get shot while running away? I mean.
And then you could see their look in their eyes. One of them was tearing up. They were looking at the father. The father was looking at them in
was
a
that
way
not
like,
sweat?
This is
they were
it.
sweaty too, though. I couldn't tell if that
it was under both
tears.
eyes and the bottom lids. It was bottom lidding,
I gotcha.
Yeah. It was a solid bottom lid.
Nice. You read that.
Thanks for the laughs, TC. I honestly thought going into this one, I'm just like, there's no way we're going to laugh once for this.
There's a couple bottom lids there. Yeah. I noticed. I was like, I see you. I
guess you always hope that it's not going to happen, I guess, so you try to take the chance and live, and
that's what I mean. I honestly was so confused. I'd be like, all signs are pointing toward, the guy said like, now it's time for the real show. And it's like, all right, are they going to show us like propaganda movies and maybe try to turn us to their side or something?
No.
I don't know.
Right.
Horrible shit.
It makes all the stuff that we're going through seem stupid.
I know. Dude, I thought that when I was watching it, I was like, if I had like known what this movie would have been like, I would have not wanted to watch it. I would have like picked something else to watch like halfway through the movie.
I'm telling you, people, if you're about to watch this one, be ready. Just be ready for a different kind of world. And to think people go through that, we're very blessed, every single one of us.
Yeah. And this is different too than the most similar movies to this are Hotel Rwanda and Hotel Mumbai, I would think, right? Can you think of anything else?
I still think more of I Come and See. It's going after the bystander experience also, like the people that are swept up in a conflict.
And that one didn't. So that one was really good. The scene of everyone being pushed into the barns was realistic, but the rest of it wasn't. This one felt realistic, a single realistic story from beginning to end.
You're right. It was more surreal and it was effective in a different way, but I still think it was still trying to tell the same story about the personal impact of the war and from the ground level of people that aren't really, they didn't start it. They're not combatants, but they're swept up in it one way or another. And I feel like that. So for some reason, it seems like it overlaps with that one, just because it also terrified me a lot, like this one did.
And it's also got a scene where they shove people into a building to kill them.
There's that, and that one is terrible. Oh, that one, yeah. There's that's another one.
Shout out UN, huh? Fucking hell, they're in both the Hotel Rwanda too. Like at the UN, fucking those poor bastards at the line there, though. Sitting there in their shorts with the one gun versus like a fucking mob.
When they made fun of that, like there was that one girl who looks not so much in shape and like,
and is just white as a ghost.
Yeah, it's like you haven't been out in the sun that long and everyone looked young. And they even put like little Boy Scout shorts on everyone.
Oh,
like,
they did that on purpose. Yeah, right, yeah. Because they're so dying of the heat that they can't, but like they made them look stupid on purpose, right?
When you I came out of the movie being pissed at them, being like, why the fuck wouldn't you help them? But then, again, you start reading into the situation. Yeah, they were fucked. Like most people were like 18 years old. It was their first time traveling anywhere besides the country they were from.
Right.
They weren't heavily armed. They didn't know their position in the whole thing. Like they,
right.
It was
and they're
also
not
confusing.
And the other people they're facing are seasoned soldiers. It's not like. And what do? You're going to fire at them and create an international incident?
Fuck no.
You don't have the authority to do that sort of thing. What are you going to do? You're basically your hands are pretty much tied. It's just
you're on the ground just like the other victims are at that point. Really.
And I thought they did a fairly decent job of. I mean, like I think that the commander was sympathetic. I mean, I think they did a decent enough job of trying to just convey the really shitty position he was in too.
I don't know. I kind of thought it was weird how he locked himself into the room and then the other guy took over for the rest of the movie.
Yeah,
right. That because he
I
never
can see
came.
that happening.
Yeah,
do you not see him again after that?
I don't think so, right? Because that's when the other guy started being the one that Aida was trying to beg.
Yeah,
and he was a little
That seems
more
like
stern.
a thing that we've seen in movies before.
Yeah, I don't know what I
That's
would
a
do. I mean,
go-to.
the guy knows that he's not going to be able to help anybody. So, like, why?
Oh, I don't know what I
Why
would
do
do.
anything?
He's trying. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, there was, and the UN was threatening airstrikes all the time, and then airstrikes did happen later on. But again,
like you said, John, you're going to start an international incident.
well, you
even
can't,
with
you
that.
can't do something on the ground. I mean, they did it. They did it with a ton of negotiation, and like they had to get like multinational support for that stuff, and
Jesus.
and it had to be very strategic, and it was also a big mess. All the when they did do the bombing, it was apparently a big mess without like clear goals.
I mean, you figure you guys work in a corporate America. Like, you see how messy it is just to do like one stupid little thing.
Sure.
Can you
right?
imagine like this kind of war with negotiations with multiple organizations and multiple countries? And oh my fucking shoot me, dude. Just shoot me. That would
it was just confusing. Like, it was the UN's responsibility to protect this town, but then also they didn't want to ruin their reputation with the Serbian people. Like that was also on their plate. They're trying to balance both sides of the war. What? They're at war.
And they have like an owned thing there
Right,
that
but they weren't
technically
committed.
theirs, right? That they can't let people come on, and it's a fucking nightmare scenario.
And they were also they were undersupplied, and they actually, I mean, they weren't committed to a side either. Technically, they were there to sort of like try to guard a safe area, but that made it pretty difficult to sort of like decide exactly what that meant. They weren't there to fight. So you couldn't really shoot somebody for like starting to encroach upon the
How do you protect
area.
an area during a war if you don't fight anybody? How does that work?
I don't get it.
Yeah, it doesn't, right?
It's almost like they got themselves in that stupid situation. What are they thinking?
No, it's again the book I was reading goes into some detail about it, and it just the complexities of it and how messy it all was is just I don't know.
You want to get into that, John, a little bit?
I can. I don't know.
I think so. I mean, we're already there. We just queued it up.
I read.
I mean, I was just going to say the last thing about the movie, the thing that this actually did happen too. One of the parts of the movie where I was just like, no fucking way would that happen was when they let the Serbian soldiers into the UN compound. I was like, no way would you give in to those guys. Like, that seems like a terrible idea. But that happens.
Yep.
It happened a lot.
What are you going to do?
I mean, the guy was scared shitless in the other room with them, right? And he was just like, okay.
That guy was scary as hell, dude. He like came out of a fucking truck with a bunch of scary looking dudes and just started yelling at him. He's like, I'm here now. I'm here now. And you're just like, I don't know what to do. Shit.
Right?
I don't want him to kill me.
Seriously.
But that was it. I just wanted to make that note. This movie's, in terms of recommendations, it'd be really hard to recommend it. The same as Come and See. You want to ruin your day and see a really well put together movie with some amazing acting about a true thing about horrible, human nature, then go for it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Having a great day. Oh, you should watch this.
Tell your enemy to watch this. They'll ruin their day. If you want to bring
a friend down and you just for the sake of it to spite them. Yeah. Hey, let's watch this together. Anyways, John,
what's it up with the foreign movie categories? Always just having the most like the Oscars just love fucking depressing foreign movies.
No, we live in a bubble here.
Wait a minute.
It turns out in the world things happen.
Minari wasn't depressing.
No, but that's not a foreign movie.
America.
Not a foreign movie.
It happens in America.
Oh, you mean it's not the international movies?
Right.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
All right. So the international ones?
International, yeah. Isn't that the same thing as foreign?
I guess so. Well,
Sure.
it's a more stylized way. The more polite way,
I
apparently.
think
of saying
international is
foreign
the
now.
more
International.
polite way.
Yeah,
Foreign would
that's
mean
saying
that the one
foreign.
place it's good is America and that anyone else is foreign.
Yeah.
Well, the Golden Globes call it foreign language film.
Because
That's their
it's an
category.
award show happening in America.
That's true.
Well, that one, but actually the Golden Globes are like which is odd. They're like the international press in the first place.
Well, that's true. The Golden Globes.
That's real confusing.
So maybe they're right, actually. Maybe they're in the right because they're already international,
Yeah.
Well, right.
They didn't want to double up the words because they already had
Right.
Yeah. Anyway.
Anyways, wow, we're really deep diving this
Yeah.
on air. All right, Johnny, what do you got for Johnny's book corner?
So I, once again, do not claim to understand anything I read.
Okay. This is going to be good.
I did read a book called, or no, I did not. I skimmed parts of a book called The Balkans by Misha Glynn, who was a BBC correspondent. And I don't even remember if I've got that right. But anyway, wrote this big long book about it, and just about the Balkans and their history, going back hundreds of years. It's this amazingly concentrated area of countries. Like the Balkans, it involves Greece, Serbia, Croatia, Romania, Turkey, Bulgaria, Bosnia, Herzegovina, Montenegro, Macedonia, and Albania. And then the peripheral territories of Slovenia and Hungary, and Anatolia, Cyprus, and Greek, Aegean, and Ionian islands are also in there. It's just a mess. And the Balkan Peninsula, they're called the Balkan States, and it was coined by a German geographer because it came out of a long-standing misconception that the Balkan mountain range, which is the backbone of Bulgaria, did not taper out to in eastern Serbia, which it actually does. But they thought it stretched unbroken from the Black Sea to the Adriatic, so that they thought this Balkan range extended all across that area. So they called this whole area the Balkans, which is not true. I mean, that the range doesn't exist.
I, for one, thought it was true. I knew that.
Yes. Well, there you go.
I feel like researching this movie, I was like, I know the least amount of the world.
I don't know anything about that area.
I know nothing,
area,
right?
I know nothing at all. I had to look up too. I was like, is this in Europe or Asia? And I was like, wait a minute, it's in both? Where the fuck is the line between Europe and Asia?
And that's the point. It's right in between there. It's a whole bunch of countries right in between Europe and Asia and Russia. So something that the book comments on is that whatever they want to call themselves, the powers that be, the larger nations, they sort of like to go in there and mess around, and influence things one way or another, and then step back and comment how they're all a bunch of savages in the Balkans. Just like, these war-hungry, bloodthirsty savages are at it again. We have to go help them, and never really acknowledging sort of how they've tried to influence and push these countries around one way or the other, and also how they don't bother to help other than when it's in their own interests. So it was one of the general points.
Typical
of the book
humans, am I right? Typical European humans,
am I right?
Right. So, and then
not to shit on Europeans. America's pretty bad too. So anyway, U.S. is pretty bad.
Please,
so, yeah. Not coloring you out. We're all shit.
Right.
We're all shit. Go on, John.
Some of the backdrop of the Balkan War back in the early 90s, there were two things that sort of had happened that sort of like led to even more inaction. But one was like we had the fall of communism, and a lot of the states in the Balkans were propped up and were communist themselves, and so they were sort of left with a whole lot of economic hardship and debt after the communist empire collapsed. So that happened. They created this big sort of power gulf that people started stepping into. And the other thing that happened was the first Gulf War, where Iraq had invaded Kuwait, and so America was busy over there trying to sort that out, and a lot of other there was a lot of other international attention on that conflict that was going on there. So as this sort of conflict started heating up, there was a whole bunch of things going on as well that sort of the world was like occupied with different things. Let's see. So in fact, it was in the same month that Iraq invaded Kuwait. That was like when Croatian police and Serb rebels armed by Milosevic exchanged fire for the first time. So the Balkan War started like basically the same month.
Is that like in 92?
Is
that the
yeah? So in August 1990, after
okay.
that's when the Gulf War, the Iraqi forces invaded Kuwait. So there's a lot of stuff going on. And there's a whole lot of politics going on in terms of who's backing who in these different countries and different factions. And I am not going to claim to understand it. I mean, Germany was basically it was like you had Yugoslavia and you had Slovenia and Croatia. You had Yugoslavia, which was this kind of like a federation of kind of city states, sort of, and they were made up of like Bosnia and Slovenia, Croatia, and they were like going to say, look, we're just going to be independent from each other now. And there were the French and British governments opposed this kind of independence, and Germany was on the side of allowing independence. And so there was, again, the powers that be outside of the Balkans had like different conflicting interests in terms of whether or not Yugoslavia was going to remain its own federation or whether it was going to be broken up into independent countries. And it was a big mess. and then the way it was broken up would be problematic because you'd have Bosnia, but you'd have Serbs in Bosnia, and the Serbs were a different group than the Bosnians, and the Serbs wanted to control more of Bosnia, and it was just yes. I know it sounds stupid, but I'm not even going to try to like go into the details.
No, you're doing well.
You're doing good.
Well.
I'm just my opinion on this is like you know how sometimes when you learn something, you can feel your focus getting honed in and you understand something. Mine is still just like this is very confusing, and I know nothing about this and probably never will. Which is
right.
Yeah.
So the UN did like in '94, the UN did impose sanctions and were threatening airstrikes, but even sanctions made everything difficult because these countries are so interlocked that if they would impose sanctions on Bosnia, but it would mess with all the countries around it, like Romania and Bulgaria and Macedonia, because they like had all these economic problems, and these countries were so reliant upon each other that you couldn't just declare sanctions against one of the regions and not have it like drastically impact the rest of those regions too. So that was pretty problematic. Even doing sanctions, which most countries supported in the UN, even Russia, at least Russia didn't veto it. But they were, even the sanctions themselves were sort of difficult to enforce, and they also just made things generally bad for everybody, not just the bad guys.
So these were like normal channels, normal responses to stuff, and it's such an abnormal situation that none of it worked.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Damn. And meanwhile, people are getting killed, starving, time's going by. Fucking hell. This is
right. And each of these, like, you had religious factions and ethnic factions. And so, you had, I think the Serbians were Catholic or Orthodox, and I can't remember. But, and then there are Muslims, and the Muslims groups always got, not always, but they often were the ones that got massacred. And you had Croatians and Serbs that sometimes they would ally with each other, but then sometimes they would, fight each other too, and then sometimes they'd ally with each other against the Muslims. And there were also like other groups just sort of like profiting off of everybody as usual, sort of like just playing politics or sort of like mafia styled stuff. But anyway, that sounds terrible. Like I'm not doing any justice to any of this or claiming understanding of it. It's just friggin' complicated, and I think it would take a long time to sit down and kind of map it all out. But that general, the Ratko Mladic, he was a real guy. He was convicted and sentenced to life in prison at The Hague and international war crimes. And so he was found guilty of crimes against humanity and was sentenced to life.
And that was 10 to 20 years after this happened, right?
Right. Well, right, because these people were still in power for quite some time. Mladic was still a general for quite some time. And this is like... I wouldn't say midway, but there was years more of this stuff going on, not necessarily the atrocities, although I think there was other things, bad things, yes. So they did go on in different places. I'm sounding so articulate right now. But anyway, there's this long saga of how this whole Bosnian conflict played out, and continues like to have repercussions today too in terms of how it played out, and it's a big long story.
And with that being said, I looked up like if Bosnia and Serbia were like okay places to visit, and apparently they are. I mean, there's a lot of some of the cities that the pictures I looked up looked like pretty nice places, and for tourists they're supposed to be like right now you can't go, but last year or the year before last year, how long has this been going on for? I don't know.
A year
before the pandemic, you could go there and it's pretty safe for tourists. There's a lot of like mob violence, but that kind of stuff, it's mostly. You have to be in the mob. Sometimes there's like, casualties if there's a shooting outside for mob stuff, but they usually, from the sounds of it, keep it like closed doors.
So it's like a Mexico in the sense that like if you go to a certain place, it's safe as hell. But if you go like a couple streets over, not so much.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, they did say like don't go, like a normal city, don't go down dark alleys, take main streets wherever you go.
If you're doing that on purpose, you deserve what's coming.
You're asking to get mugged.
Yeah. That's in LA too.
Yeah. That's here too.
That's in San Francisco too, right? Yeah. Shit, that's Boston. That's any city.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not Rochester, Minnesota.
John walks around with his wallet over his head, just flapping it with his eyes closed.
That's right. That's easy.
Yeah.
And everybody like, you okay? Is there anything wrong with you?
No, I'm just seeing who's going to take my money.
Just seeing if anyone, undesirables around.
You need some money?
Yeah.
People here are so very nice. So just to give you a sense of the way this author, I like this book. I
What's the name of it?
don't know when I'm going to have time to read it. So it's called just the Balkans.
The Balkans.
But if you look at there's a lot of stuff written about this area and the history of it. So this is Misha Glenn. Again, it's heavy in history. I mean, heavy in a lot of names.
Misha Glenn.
Glenny.
What?
Glenny.
Oh, wait.
Misha Glenny.
Sorry, you're right.
Glenny?
There's a check marks over my Kindle version here that's obscuring the Y. See how stupid I am. Anyway, you're right, Glenny. Thank you, Denny.
You're welcome.
Glenny.
You're welcome, Glenny. Thanks, Denny.
Glenny. Anyway,
You're welcome.
but anyway, I can read a little from the book here in the end here just to wrap that up. But they talk about the Balkan countries are seen as culprits who force the reluctant outside powers into their unfathomable conflicts. These imagined Balkans, a world where people are motivated not by rational considerations, but by a mysterious congenital bloodthirstiness, is always invoked when the great powers seek to deny their responsibility for the economic and political difficulties that the region has suffered as a consequence of external interference. So anyway, that's kind of a general theme of the book as well, too, that these things are happening on a larger stage, and these countries, because of their locations and how they're situated between all these other powers, are often used and put into play in different I don't know what the right word would be, but militias or generals or paramilitary groups or politicians are backed by different countries for different purposes, and they can rise to power. I mean, so some of these groups, the groups that were committing the atrocities, were being backed by other groups, and so it's just outside of the Balkans themselves. Anyway,
and a lot of people didn't know that these, what exactly was going on, until later. Is what I read too, right? I mean, John, you're kind of not saying anything. Is that?
Did they not know what was going on, or were they just not paying attention on purpose?
I don't know. I didn't read that nobody knew it happened.
It wasn't recognized as an actual thing until
I think everybody knew that they knew that in the case of these safe zones, they knew that these safe zones were under siege, that this town was under siege for years and being deprived of food, and people were starving in this town. That was known. It was known that they were being harassed and shelled, as well as starving for years. That's part of why the UN tried to do this safe zone thing, but it didn't really have that much of an effect. It helped for a little bit, but then things got much worse. So I don't think there was, when the massacre happened, that's what's been called the worst single massacre of the Balkan War. So when that happened, I don't have a sense of when it was reported or not, or when it was known that it happened, because it might have been known that it happened, but the war is still going on. The people that instigated the massacre are still in power, so nobody's going to go in and do anything about it then. So it's still going to be years before they're going to investigate it, because you have to wait until the war is resolved one way or the other before anybody's going to do it. So I'm not sure if people just flatly didn't know about it outside. People may have known, but what are you going to do? There's still a war going on.
I said it wasn't nationally recognized. I'm trying to find out in which city or which country, but it was 5 years. And people didn't start getting charged for 10 or 15 years after it happened. Right. And there's still, in Serbia, there's a lot of genocide denial that's still being pushed by people in the government. So there's, that seems to happen.
Right. So that makes sense,
anyway.
Right? Yeah. No, that makes sense. But, it makes sense. I don't know.
I'm getting it here. Post-war developments. Let's see. First Republika Srpska report was in 2002, which was the first time it was recognized in Bosnia.
Right.
In paper
recognized
form
in Bosnia in paper, but where was it recognized elsewhere outside of Bosnia?
UN Secretary General's report in 1999. It recognized an ethnic cleansing campaign that murdered some 7,000 unarmed civilians. So 99. From the UN. The Dutch recognized it in 2002. Srpska recognized it in 2002.
So still well afterwards.
Yeah. So I wonder what's weird there, because the UN knew it was a thing, right? They were the ones there.
Well,
right?
again, I think
they didn't find the bodies.
It and knowing.
Well, you probably couldn't go in there. What are you going to do if again the country? I don't know. I think that you may just be we're trying to get this matter settled, and then we'll go figure out who's responsible for what. I guess I don't know. I'd be surprised to think that like nobody knew about it and this came as a surprise.
I think recognizing it and knowing about it are two different things.
Right. That's what I think.
But I think until they started finding the mass graves, that they didn't actually know, if you just have missing people, they're missing. You can make assumptions. But,
these people are getting fucking calling in airstrikes. Like someone's relaying that information to the rest of the UN, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
If so, I think so. I mean, I think it's just a matter of recognizing it for the historical book, whatever book that is, the book, not Johnny's Book Corner, but the major book. I don't know. I'm trying to make light of it because it's just, this is all so fucking depressing.
It is.
Yeah. Like, how come they didn't know about this atrocity and why didn't they report it? Like, no, I don't know.
Yeah, why did this happen? God damn it.
Yeah, right.
Well, yeah.
Well, thanks for that, John. That was a lot of info.
You can just edit it all out as far as I'm concerned.
No, dude.
Because
I learned some stuff.
I've learned some good stuff. Yeah.
Okay. But I don't know if any of it is actually factual just because it's so hard for me to, I have such a limited understanding, but okay.
So even if you think you learned something, maybe you didn't. All right, let's go to the movie trivia.
Right. That's what I'm trying to say.
So this is a brand new movie. The person that made this movie is from Bosnia. So yeah, there weren't very many English speaking interviews with her. But there were a few because this was picked up at TIFF. It's TIFF, right? TIFF? I think it's TIFF.
No idea. What's TIFF?
And there were a few other, it's a movie festival.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, okay.
Like, what are you talking about?
And there was the MFF, and then there was another one I watched that I'm not going to mention because it didn't.
These all sound like EDM music or bands or something like that.
DJ TIFF.
Yeah.
It was weird because, they have these festivals still, and nobody can go to them. So they did it's like a recorded Skype meeting. So the audio is bad. You can't hear some of the stuff they say. But there was a little bit. So the weird thing is she talked about Bosnia now. Bosnia is not in lockdown. They are kind of going about business as usual during the pandemic, kind of against the hospitals. The hospitals seem to be the only ones saying, stop doing what you're doing. And everyone else is just like going out to cafes and living life as usual. Yeah. So.
Are people dying?
People are dying. Their numbers are terrible, but
it just doesn't sound like the people care out there about people die.
She said, so the director of the movie said, the Bosnians are very social people. So I guess being social people kind of overrides the need to try to save people's lives.
People have been dying in this area for years.
Yeah. Maybe that's a part of it. It's like, hey, that Bones scene where she's like walking around and looking for her family. They happened to film that on July 11th, which was the beginning of this kind of exodus out of the town they were in. And that happened by complete coincidence because this movie had nine production companies from 9 different countries involved in it and a lot of international actors.
That's impressive.
Yeah,
I'm reading a bunch of stuff here on Britannica.com too about the Sabranica Massacre that saying that there was a well-organized effort undertaken by Bosnian and Serb forces in September and October 95 to hide traces of the Srebrenica crimes. So they used tractors and dug up the graves. U.S. intelligence experts used satellite photographs to help identify where they were, and it requires a lot of years of analysis by Western scientists to figure it out, like where these bodies were. So there was a lot of cover up going on actively, which may have helped explain why it didn't it
wasn't everywhere.
It was a while before. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Keep going, Denny.
Keep going. So this movie, production companies were from Bosnia, Austria, Germany, France, the Netherlands, Norway, Poland, Romania, and Turkey.
This is the most co-produced film ever that I've seen. 9 countries.
So. Yeah, that's a lot.
That is a lot.
And there were a lot of credits in the beginning.
Yep. Well, a lot of funding from desperate sources. It looks like a lot of independent type of funding. It seemed like, or governmental funding.
Yeah. And I was surprised at the amount of extras in this movie. It seemed like they just had tons of extras. There must have been some digital effects in that Bonnaroo shot TC mentioned earlier. I would think, right?
I mean, I would hope so.
I would think so. You're not just going to get 30,000 people out in the desert for one shot.
No, that had to be fake.
Yeah. It looked pretty good, though.
Yeah,
it did look fake. But I was still there's no way they got all these people. There's no way.
No, but they could splice in another video of that kind of crowd, and you'd never know.
From Bonnaroo.
from Bonnaroo. Yeah, exactly. We got to go back there.
They're waiting for Band of Horses to start playing.
Yeah,
Look
right.
at all
My
those
Morning
happy
Jacket's
people.
definitely coming on soon, right? I heard Eddie Vedder's going to show.
You think Kenny Rogers is going to come on stage during the midnight set?
Dude, they play every year. It's fucking sick.
I can't wait to go back to Bonnaroo.
Anything to stop thinking about.
Yeah, that's basically all I have. Yeah. This movie is not in the top 250, but it has 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it has a 97 on Metacritic, and it has a 7.5 on IMDb. So
there you go.
I mean, I don't think any of us could, besides the small little negative things we said, it's not the kind of movie you can really talk shit on.
Can't hate on it. No. And the production value is good, and you're not paying attention to the cinematography, but it's good. It's good in the sense that like you're lost in it and you're paying attention to the story, right? It's like, you're not getting like bothered.
You feel like you're
by
chasing
camera
her
work
around,
or anything.
you know?
Yeah, right. It's it very as far as like 9 production companies are concerned. That's pretty good stuff for the different. They obviously had some sort of like guide where they had people shooting in the same fucking style, right? Because you didn't notice it through the different scenes. So.
No.
I mean, I wouldn't recommend this, but I wouldn't not recommend to see it. I just wouldn't recommend it on a Saturday if you're fucking trying to have a leisurely movie. Not the one to pick.
And I don't say, when I said if you like this kind of movie, I mean, that is what I meant. And you know what I mean, right? Some people kind of, you get something out of these movies, Yeah,
if you like to learn about stuff. I mean, I hate to put, there's no other, the simple way to put it, if you like to learn when you watch movies, this is a good one to watch.
I got to imagine a lot of people from our country have no idea this happened or any of the events surrounding it at all, like zero.
Right.
So it's good just to like realize there's other people
more
in the
to
world.
the life that we live than America.
Yep. So with all that said, would you, any of you guys have anything else to say about this one?
I could use a fucking drink, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
Well, would you put it in the top 250?
No. Yeah. That's where I'm at.
John, do you have a more decisive answer?
Understandable. I'd say yes. I mean,
I think it's a yes.
It's not. Yeah, I really appreciate what the film did. I think this. I know you can. I mean, there's ways of comparing it with other films, but I think this one has its own.
No, sorry,
way of approaching this.
And I tried to complete my thought there by saying that what this one does differently is bring you. I think it's the most realistic out of any of those movies, and it makes you feel just the individual scenes are less than like the ending scene where they get shot is not as flashy as say like the terrible gun shooting in Hotel Mumbai. And the shoving into that room isn't as scary as the church burning scene in Come and See. The cinematography isn't as good as in Sanzi. There's like no individual part that's necessarily better, but the fact that like the narrative stays with one person and it feels, I think, the most realistic out of all of those, where she's just running around and the idea of a threat is scarier than actually seeing
watching
like,
it
murder and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's my boy. Suspense is so much more than surprise.
What you see, Denny?
No, you see what Hitchcock would have done is he would have popped up on screen at the beginning and be like, the boys and the husband are going to die. Enjoy the movie. You need to know what's going to happen for there to be suspense, says Hitchcock. He's a fucking genius.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, I would too. I'd put it on the list. So next week, guys, we're back to the list. We're on number 68. Is it 68?
All right.
Check this.
What do we got?
We're getting up there.
We are.
Yep.
I just tried to look it up really quickly. Once upon a time in India. Nope.
No, America.
Yeah. Not Lagan. We already watched that one.
Pretty cool too. That's right. Once upon a time in America.
It is number 68. Okay. Once Upon a Time in America, directed by Sergio Leone.
Okay.
This movie stars little Bobby De Niro in there. Why not?
Little Bobby De Niro.
The synopsis is, a former Prohibition-era Jewish gangster returns to the Lower East Side of Manhattan over 30 years later, where he once again must confront the ghosts of regret of his old life. Ghosts and regret.
Motherfucker.
Yes, we got James Woods. We got Joe Pesci.
Wow.
Oh, Joe Pesci's? Ooh, yeah, look at that.
Is he really? We got Pesci and De Niro, huh? They never fucking
Danny
at the
Aiello.
hip.
It's got Aida in there.
Oh,
Isn't James Woods a piece of shit these days?
Once
I'm gonna want to
upon
punch
a
him the entire
time.
day.
I think he is. Yeah. But some people maybe they just get kind of senile, you know.
Yeah, maybe.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
All right.
Anywho,
here we
this
go.
movie is plan your week out. This movie is 4 hours long.
David Noodles Aronson.
Once upon a long time in America.
Mr. Noodles.
His
How
name
you
is
doing? How you
Noodles.
doing?
I like
How you
this.
doing? How you
Can't
doing?
go wrong with a 4-hour movie with a main character called Noodles,
Oh.
played by Robert De Niro.
Noodles.
That's all right. It's gonna work.
All right, so we can talk about doing 2 episodes on this one. This is 4 hours long.
We can. This is the final film Leone directed.
4 hours.
Is it? Is this the
4
last one?
hours. Guys,
Yeah,
4
and
hours.
he had and before directing this, I know this will be more true, but just he hadn't directed a film for 13 years before he did this one, and then he died 5 years later.
Shit.
I should have told him to make it 2 hours just for our podcast.
Oh, he
Just
barely
4
directed any
hours.
movies. Holy shit. He directed 6 movies. What?
That's it.
That's it.
All right.
All right.
That's
we'll
because he's
bring
making
it
it
up
4
next week.
hours long.
We
Guys.
still
Come
have
on.
the good, the bad, and the ugly to watch of his,
Yeah,
right?
if
If
he
nothing
directed
else.
6, and 4 of them are on this list.
Wow. All right.
That's got to be some kind of record.
That's true
Yes,
as far as a hit
yes.
rate.
Yeah.
You know,
Except for maybe, what's his name? The guy who plays Sal. And he's not a director, but all of his movies are on this list. The guy who plays Sal in Dog Day Afternoon. He was also in The Deer Hunter.
right. That's true.
What's his name? Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, though.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's what we're going to watch. We're going to split up into 2 episodes likely. So, yeah, prepare for that. You got a couple of weeks to catch up on this one.
Woo.
All right, dudes.
All right.
Talk to you guys
All
later.
right. I'll see you
See you
next
later.
week.